Mother Jones once said, "Not all the coal that is dug warms the world." Keep this in mind as we discuss today the sudden reversal in Europe by going back to coal, and what does it mean not only for the climate change but the global energy. My name is Dr. David Waradu.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
One of the main objectives is actually to phase out coal, the use of coal.
Now, coal generates nearly 70% of India's electricity, three-quarters of which is mined domestically.
Worse. Europe is planning to resurrect old coal plants as Russia chokes its gas supply.
For the German economy, as well as the environment. Among them, a return to coal.
Wow, the turn of events. So much has been touted in terms of the energy crisis. We're going green, we're going green. Pipelines, refineries, on and on. We need green technology. Well, now, Austria is reopening one of their old coal-burning facilities. What is going on here, David?
So is Germany. They are now going to fire up their coal plants. Well, basically what's going on is they are realizing that the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia is backfiring on Europe, given that in the case of Germany, actually the whole Europe thing, it's 70% of its energy comes from Russia. So
that even includes coal.
Yeah, but the much bigger problem with Daras is the idea of, are we looking at a hypocrisy here? Are we looking at a necessity?
Or both.
Or both, which is true, because we're gonna have to be pragmatic in our arguments. You know, Europe is considered the post-child of green energy.
Right.
All of a sudden, they're going back to coal. You look at some countries, like when they do this climate change talk and all that stuff, and like India. How do we expect that India is going to cut down on coal when most of electricity is generated from coal?
You know, I've been following this since I was in college, which is now a long time ago. And what we're looking at is, does coal provide energy? Yeah. Does it provide CO2 for the atmosphere, which is not such a good thing, blanket of atmosphere that protects us from the radiation of the sun and so on. What you don't talk about much is the amount of radiation that's in coal that is actually worse than nuclear power plants puts out. Coal is loaded with radioactive particles, and then there's all the particulates. Walking around Beijing and having my nostrils black 4 years ago because of coal burning, it's not a pretty sight. And what we're seeing is in Germany, for example, prices of gasoline have gotten so high that people are flooding mass transit. Congestion everywhere. People are abandoning their cars and even saying we're going to sell them because we can't see an end to this thing.
Yeah.
So what are we really looking at here?
Well, it's a big concern because now you have the German government, for example, the Minister of Economy is urging Germans now to start conserve electricity. So I would not be surprised, Ross, that it's just in a matter of a month or so, you're going to start seeing blackouts to conserve energy.
You know, the economic necessity of conserving energy is not lost on the German people. They're smart. They're already doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, you are noticing the whole Europe now is start to, you got demonstrations in Brussels now.
Yeah.
You got demonstrations in London. You got demonstrations in Italy. The government in Bulgaria was voted out in a no confidence vote. You got now the tensions between Russia and Lithuania. Dutch don't have gas. Finland doesn't have gas. Poland doesn't have gas. The whole Europe, you look at it as a whole, and for them to all of a sudden, and this is why we said what we said, is it a hypocrisy or is it necessity? Because we're gonna have to be realistic as to what other options do they have.
Oh, they're quickly running out of options.
Yeah.
Coal seems to be the thing. One thing, many of them already have coal burning facilities.
Yeah.
They have to restructure them, but they've got plenty of coal.
Yeah, and even the energy coming from Norway is not enough.
Right.
Qatar said they even signed an agreement with the EU that they will provide them gas, but they said we don't have that kind of capacity. When you consider, in the case of Germany, if I'm not mistaken, and that's the last stats that I looked at, Germany consumes about 30 billion cubic meter of gas. Russia produces 300 billion cubic meter of gas. So you can just see the consumption. My point is the massive consumption that no one country can provide that. They even wanted to reach Europe wants to reach to Algeria, because Algeria produces gas. But they said, sorry, we don't have that kind of capacity. It's because they have to commit, those countries that's going to provide Europe, they have to commit contractually, right? But at the same time, they have to ensure they have enough for their domestic use.
Well, guess what? They're not going to get it very easily.
No, I don't think so. And the question becomes is, how will Europeans move forward? Because you're already seeing, as I mentioned earlier, demonstrations in London, but now you got the train system in England shut down completely. Chaos is going to be ensuing soon in Europe because the people are waking up and realizing what a stupid mistake or policies, failed policies that their leaders have embarked on without thinking of the consequences.
You have to ask yourself, who's running these governments? They seem to be outside of the world of consequences. Like they can't think 1 week ahead, 1 month ahead, 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the numbers there. They have smart economic people telling them these things, and they ignore it.
Yeah. Well, certainly Germany is finding that out because people are now looking at Olaf Scholz, the current chancellor, and looking at the reign of when Angela Merkel was in power 16 years. Germans didn't have to worry about energy, didn't have to worry about the cost. Now it's a different ball game together. So I'm wondering whether the Germans regret voting for Olaf Scholz to begin with. It's no different than Australia.
Yeah.
Because now they're finding out that Albanese, the new PM, turns out to be nothing but a hot air. The guy is so weak. So too much hopes was built upon his elections that he could, for example, fix the tensions with China, reestablish the trade, and help businesses in Australia. Turns out to be he couldn't even move an inch without the master telling him or giving him the order. So he's weak as he can be.
You know, and China even made several important moves to reestablish an economic relationship with Australia. If you're spending 100 euros a month heating your home in the winter in Germany, and it goes to 400, and then rolling blackouts, you're going to be quite miserable. I mean, cutting into your budget, 400% increase in energy if you can get it.
Well, as we said when I was discussing with Ross, the idea of Europe going back to coal, is it, a necessity, or is it a hypocrisy? We have to be, as I said, realistic into our assessments. But we're going to look at this from an economic perspective and from a geopolitical one. So from an economic perspective, you look at it in a way that Europe right now, the reason why they're going back to coal, I'll provide just an example of two countries. We'll think about Germany and we'll think about Austria. We'll think about those two countries, as I said, Germany. Well, the reason Germany is a concern because Germany imports massive amount of gas from Russia. All of a sudden, that gas is going to have to be stopped at some point. As of now, Russia decided to reduce the delivery or supply of gas by about 60% to 60%. This is what usually comes through Nord Stream 1. Because remember, Nord Stream 2 is not operational because now the sanctions apply to that. So 60% by how much the Russians is going to slash the delivery of gas to Germany. So Germany in this case, they're going to have to figure out, okay, how we're going to prepare for winter. Because I can tell you right now, Germans are thinking about winter. It's going to be cold, and it gets cold in Germany. For those who've been in Germany before, you know what I'm talking about. What concerns them the most now is that the economic minister now asking Germans to be ready for blackouts. What is the purpose of blackouts? Is to conserve energy. Why? Because they won't have enough. If they want to save energy, they're going to have to start store it. They don't have enough of it. So this is why Germany is going back to coal. Same thing with Austria. Austria has now decided to open up or fire up the coal production plants so they can produce energy. Countries like Netherlands, Finland, Poland, they don't even receive any gas from Russia to begin with. Now, Bulgaria is an interesting case. Well, Bulgaria was also cut off from Russian gas, but Bulgarian government, as of yesterday, was voted out. Vote of no confidence. Why? Because the failed policies. And this is why we are noticing right now demonstrations in the UK, in London, demonstrations in Belgium, in Brussels, demonstrations in Italy, okay? And soon you will see France and Germany as well. This is what lies ahead for those countries. So, but economically, let's stay with the economic aspects of it. So, and here is the thing. For the import of the energy, there is about Germany. We always go with Germany. Why? Because Germany is the heart of the EU. Most of the industries in Germany depends on energy. Without energy, they won't be able to compete. So Germans imports about 35% for gas. Okay. Italy imports about 40% of gas from Russia. So you can just see when you have less energy coming in, industries won't be able to compete. What that's going to do to the economy. And remember, all this while the citizen in those countries and Europe as a whole paying a high euros for energy. As a matter of fact, as of today, the liter of gas is about 2 euros, which is a lot. So this is from an economic perspective. So still the other side to this one here has to do with, for example, the EU as a whole, the storage capacity. How much can this store? Well, they don't have much because as of today, the capacity is about 57% in Europe. Well, the EU is asking the European countries to conserve or store the energy by about 80% by November 1st. Will they be able to meet this target number? I doubt it. They're going to have to bring energy from elsewhere. Norway is sending some energy, but that's not enough. Qatar cannot send much. Algeria cannot send them much. So this is why we say, and I remember saying this in one of our previous videos, is that Europe will not be able to survive economically without gas from Russia. It's cheap, it's closer, doesn't cost them much. Okay? This is the economic aspects of it. The geopolitical impact, it has to do with where this is going to lead to. You look at Germany right now. Citizens are looking at Olaf Scholz and saying, is he out of his mind to embark on those policies? And the way they are asking these questions, because they are comparing to how it was under Angela Merkel. And this is, by the way, on a side note, this is one of the things we're going to be doing on our online course. There are 3 key principles we're going to be teaching you. It has to do with understand, predict, and act. And we're going to teach you how to understand the information, how to act upon it, how to predict the outcome, and how to act upon it. All it's going to be on you while we're providing you the tools to reach that one. So be on the lookout for that, and we will talk further on that. So geopolitically, to go back, Germans are asking questions. France now is in the same boat, especially with the president of France, Macron, lost the support in parliament. He doesn't have the majority. Bulgaria, as I mentioned, the government is thrown out. UK, demonstrations all over the place. As a matter of fact, yesterday was the demonstrations, they shut down the trains completely. So you can just see that geopolitically, the landscape in Europe is going to be on a shaky ground. How this is going to impact us here in America if you happen to be an American viewer? I'm sure you are noticing that oil prices are not at the gas pump are not going down. And this is something you have to pay close attention to as events unfold, because we don't know exactly where things are headed. So this is why it's important for you to understand what all this means, so you can prepare accordingly and have plans for you, your family, your business, and so forth. So, and just to leave you on one note that you might want to just keep in mind, with all this turmoil and the chaos, whatever, thinking, well, we got to sanction Russia. Russia was making about $96 billion. Russia made $96 billion the first 100 days of the Ukraine operation. So sanctions are favoring Russia and backfiring on the West.
Well, as you were presenting on the board over there, what we can clearly see is the economic situation in Europe is deteriorating rapidly based on energy. And the people, they're not dumb. They already feel it, and they're already taking strong action. Are they fearful? They should be. Are they suffering a major decline in quality of life? They are, and they know it. And are they clearly telling their governments that that's what's going on? They are telling them. Now the question is, what are the governments going to do about it?
Yeah, it's no different than for us here in the United States. What our government is going to do about the high prices in energy and food and all that. I am very concerned as to where our country, I'm sure you are as well, if you happen to be an American watching this video, where our country is headed.
We're seeing a major political shift from Democrats to Republicans as a direct result of inflation is the #1 issue on everyone's minds.
Yeah. Well, let's hope both parties can fix the problem for the welfare of the American people.
May I quote Confucius again?
Sure.
Person one has this point of view. Person two has this point of view. Who's right and who's wrong? Both of them are right and wrong. What's the point? Find a way to harmoniously work together to make something good happen.
Indeed.
Well, we hope that for our government and governments everywhere.
Indeed. Well, on that good note, Ross, and that wisdom, we're going to say bye to our viewers, and we look forward to seeing you next time. As always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.